Hi Scott, thanks for joining us today.
Hi there, John. How you doing?
Good, thanks. We've got Scott in today, guys, to talk to us about kind of violence of women against girls. Scott's obviously an officer for Police Scotland. I'll let him to introduce himself because he'll do a much better job than I would.
Yeah, I'll do this. Yeah, my name's Scott. I'm been in the police 23 years, started at Tayside Police in 1998. And I'm currently working in preventions, which is all about, I suppose it's community safety and old money. That's what I call it. It's just about making sure folk are safe and preventing things from happening before we get to a stage where the police are getting it reported. I'm also the contact for education, so I cover all the schools, the college, Dundee and Angus College, and both universities in Dundee. So I do a lot of work with unis around, I suppose, preventing students getting into situations that would get them into bother or keeping them safe. A bit of both, to be honest with you.
It's quite good. I suppose the old saying, an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure, isn't it? So I think prevention is obviously a good way to go.
It is, as well as keeping folk safe. This is going to sound really cynical, but it's also a hell of a lot cheaper as well. And if we're thinking in the long-term thing here, safety is the most important. I realise that one, and I believe that, but there's billions spent on criminal justice every year, but we have to try and make sure that we're spending that money in more valuable places than letting things happen first. It's probably the best way.
So as we said, guys, Scott's here to talk to us today about violence against women and girls. A lot of kind of information out there just now, a very relevant topic. So it's good to have someone like Scott who understands kind of the details about that. I'm just going to ask you a few questions, Scott. Is that okay? And you can the first one is, I understand that the police have got a new warrant card procedure. How does that work?
Yeah, so we currently have warrant cards, but what they'll do, we're going to issue new ones which can't be copied, which is probably not the issue, because the cases we've heard down in the Met just now were not about people getting their warrants card copied. It was all about somebody pretending to be on duty when they weren't. He was a serving police officer, but not on duty. But what the warrant card does is it means that it's secure. It should be coming through soon. And when a lone police officer turns up at anybody's door, then the person can request that the police officer takes the radio out and puts it on loudspeaker, because we've got a way of making sure everybody can hear it. And the control room will confirm that officer is on duty just now. There will also be a code sent on the radio, so the person in the house can take a copy of the code, and if they want to then phone up the control room doing 101, they can confirm that person is on duty and having a legitimate reason for being there. You can actually request it at any time, but it's mostly designed for lone police officers going to houses, which it does happen, not as often as it used to, but it does happen, and it gives somebody a reassurance that person's there for a legitimate police reason rather than just what happened in London, which we all know about.
Yeah. So it's kind of more of like a verification process that people can feel safe if they're being visited by an officer on their own, and obviously it protects officers as well. I mean, the protection of the public's important, but then we are public too, so I'm quite keen. I want to make sure that if I'm there to help somebody out, then we don't want to have situations where they're not very sure what I'm there for. I'm probably fortunate that I spend most of my time in colleges and schools. I'm not at folks' houses, but it's mostly for folk that will go to houses more often. And today's topic's obviously very relevant to this, and how does this help women in particular feel safer?
I suppose there's a reassurance there, because if you're phoning the police for any particular reason, and it could be something like a vandalism, not a gender-based violence subject at all, then you've still got the worry in the background that you don't know whether that person's genuine or not. And a vast amount of police, and I would say even going as far as them all are there for a legitimate reason, but we can't avoid the fact that it's happened, particularly the one you had in London recently. And if it's going to give somebody reassurance, in particular women, because that's what happened recently, then they can make sure that they're going to phone up and they're going to get the reassurance that the person is there for whatever reason. You know what I also do is my name's not a secret. I always say that we could give them our name more often, because I give my email address and mobile phone number out to, my office number out to everybody, because we're there to make folk feel safe and keep them safe. And if it's going to reassure the public that that's the case by having this system, then we can't deny that it's going to work. That's all.
Yep. So when can people use this new system, Scott? Can you use it anytime they want? Is it?
I did mention it was lone police officers, and there is an element that it's for women, because the violence against women is something that is happening just now. But ultimately, anybody can use it. If there's two police officers coming to your door and you're not a single person, then there's nothing stopping you still using it then. So there's no hard and fast rules. If you're unsure, then feel free to use the system and just ask the officer to confirm via the radio that they're who they say they are, and more importantly, they're on duty just now, because we don't do inquiries when we're not on duty. That shouldn't happen. So anybody can use it, and it could be for any situation. There's no hard and fast rules.
Okay. As a police officer, you've obviously mentioned today that a few times there's been violence against women quite common nowadays. Would you say, as a police officer, you've seen an increase in violence against women recently?
What I would say recently, we've seen a lot of is confidence to report it. I've been in the police for 23 years, and I know of, and I'm going to use the situation of a domestic situation where folk report things to the police, and it's like 6 or 7 years after it's first started, and they say that the average amount of time folk suffer a domestic situation is something like 36 times. I might be wrong on that, but it's about that before they actually report the matter. So I would say recently what this has done is given women and men too confidence to report things. Whether there's been an increase, it's difficult to judge. I don't know, but definitely there's the confidence there, which is, and social media has its critics, but I would say in this situation there's been a positive thing when it comes to social media, and they're aware that people are aware that they can report things, and there's no shame, and as long as the police approach it correctly and make sure that they get the service that, and how should I say, and it's dealt with properly, then that's a good thing. We can't deny that. It's a good thing.
No, absolutely not. I mean, if women or men, for example, but women particularly at the moment, with the focus are suffering in silence, we want them to be confident in coming forward and getting the help they need to obviously escape that situation. So absolutely, it's good to hear that more.
You know what, John? I've been in domestic situations where I know that people have not reported things, and I get the line quite a lot. We didn't want to bother you, and ultimately, I understand that because it's difficult. Reporting things is not easy. So I would never criticise somebody for saying that, but ultimately that's my job, and I'm quite keen to help folk out. You're certainly not bothering us. You know, it's one of those things that we deal with it, and we're there to help.
Yep.
But I understand why folks say I'm not bothering you, because it's really difficult to report things to the police in general, never mind when it comes to a violent situation that you've lived in for years and years.
Yeah, I can understand that, yeah. And is it just women who can use this new system, or is it open to anyone?
No, open to anyone. Obviously, the emphasis recently has been gender-based violence doesn't have to be against women, but majority of it is relating to men's power over women. So that's where it was aimed at. But anybody can use the system. If you're a single male, whatever, in the house, and the police comes to your door, you can ask the same thing. If there's two of you in the house, there's nothing stopping you asking the same thing. It just takes seconds, and we can get in touch with the control room on our radios, and we'll send you the link. And then, if you want to then confirm who we say we are, it's not an issue.
Okay. You just touched on it there, and you mentioned it a few times through the interview, is that obviously that gender-based violence isn't always against women. Obviously, there's gender-based violence against men as well, but why is it so common that gender-based violence is against women, and why is it always caused by men?
Very much around stereotypes, isn't it? That if you look, it's kind of generational. I would go back, and this is personally think that we'll go back years. Then men are seen as the stronger of the two genders, which is ultimately not true. It's just that if you go through the generations, they believe that they're the stronger, and there's an element of power. I don't know. It's a different type of power, isn't it? When two men are fighting with each other or whatever it might be, in violence against men based upon, how should I say, wanting to be the stronger of the two men. But when it comes to domestic situations, it's very much a power thing that the man is trying to exert over a woman because he thinks he's the stronger of the two. It's stereotypes can be positive, but when it comes to this situation, they're certainly negative when we're trying to have a generational thing of men believing to be the stronger of the genders, and that's not the case. Yeah. There's an equality there, isn't it? That gender's not about power over the other, it's about making sure that we're equal.
Totally agree, 100%. And you talked also a little bit about kind of the numbers there. Do you have any statistics around gender-based violence?
I do. I am going to look down here because I cannot remember them, but this is from 3 or 4 years ago. There's one that's probably out with the UK, but I think it's quite telling. It's about mass shootings in the US since 1982 till about 4 years ago. There were 128. Now, I know that's out of date quite quickly. Of the 128 in that sort of 30-year period, 4 were by women and the rest were by men. And a question I ask in schools is, why is that the case? Why, when it comes to mass shootings in the US, are men more prevalent? We've probably not got enough time in this 20-minute talk to speak about that, you know. Of all the murders in Scotland in 2017, 95% were committed by men. And of that, 3/4 of the victims are male. So there's a different type of gender-based violence and why men are actually the victims of the more violent crimes. That's not to say the women are not the victims of more violent crimes, but it's a sign, isn't it, that men are quite keen to commit. That's murders, so it's at the extreme end of it. 94% of rape or attempted rape had a female victim. Now, male and females can both be raped now. So that's not even the case, but there's the men's exerting their power over a woman by using a sexual crime, whether it be rape or a sexual assault, and majority of the perpetrators are male, vast majority. So there's some there that we think to ourselves, well, why are men in this situation where they believe that they have to exert power over women? Well, why is it like that? Again, not a question you can answer quickly.
No, definitely
but
not.
We try and encourage men to not adhere to that stereotype and say it's okay to disagree with that and say this shouldn't be happening. Because I think if more of us did it, I was liken humans to sheep, and if the more of us believe in something, then we'll almost herd together and say that we disagree with it, and it's a more powerful message if there's more of us saying that that's wrong.
100%. Yeah, at the end of the day, obviously, by and large, obviously, the stats show that women are the victims of the majority of these crimes, but we're all human at the end of the day. We all want these crimes to be totally eradicated, and we can all work together to help do that. I totally agree with you 100%. One of the things we've also heard about quite a lot recently is the spikings that are going on around about kind of Scotland and England as well, I suppose, the whole UK.
Yeah.
What advice could you give to someone kind of who's been a victim of one of these spikings?
Again, one thing I would say, the advice is quite easy. It's report it to the police, and if you need medical assistance, then you go to your local A&E. It's quite easy to deal it that way. I suppose reporting it is difficult in the first place. I know that there'll be doubts over whether the police will believe you. I haven't seen what we've had recently, and then the police are going out and making all the inquiries they can to make sure that they can, do everything they can when it comes to a report of spiking. So we're not going to dismiss anything. But initially, we've got to report to the police. We have to know about these things. We need to know where it's happening in order to deal with it properly. We have pubs and clubs with CCTV, so that's a possibility. But unless we know...
Absolutely. I mean, it is difficult because obviously you've been a victim of a crime, quite a difficult thing to deal with as well, but it can't get solved unless we report and let you guys do your jobs, at the end of the day. So it is difficult, but please come forward and seek the support from the police to help deal with this.
John, I know it's difficult. I'm never going to say it's easy to report things to police. It's awfully easy for me to sit here and say, tell us as much as you can, but I'm not in that situation.
No.
And I realise it's never going to be easy to report any crime, and that goes right down to vandalism, the sort of lower end of it. People will say, oh, I'm not bothered with that one, but it's important that we know about things. If it means you going to Dundee and Angus College and having some kind of support from the college to report them, then I'm pretty sure that would be easily done. I've had it with the two unis in Dundee where they've supported students in reporting these type of crimes.
And obviously you're going to be on campus with quite a lot in the next few months, obviously with your partnership with the college growing stronger, which is only a good thing. So if anyone feels like they want to speak to you, I'm sure you're more than welcome to kind of have a chat with them.
Yeah, I'm going through a few classes to do with various subjects. It's not all about this, it's about other subjects, and I'm going to be in, I think it's once a month. I'm pretty sure it is. I've been put down for from January onwards. Yeah. So I'll be in the main areas at all three campuses. Just please come across. I won't ignore anybody. If I recognise anybody, well, you know what it's like, John, I never ignore anybody. I'll always speak.
You're always open for a chat.
Yeah. Yeah. So please come across, and if there's any situations that you're not very sure about, and I've had quite a few lecturers come to me about their students, not just here, but any of the three higher education, and say, we're not very sure, how do we do this? I'm quite happy, even an initial chat, just to say this is how it would work, and this is what would happen next.
Yep.
And then if you need to then report it through the normal system, which is generally 101 or 999, then at least you've got some kind of confidence in somebody keeping, I suppose, giving you the confidence to report these things, because I'm quite keen to know about them. I don't want you to sit on it, because you'll worry if you sit on things,
Of course, if anyone's getting any doubts, they can ask you. You'll give them all the guidance and reassurance they need. Totally.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, that's all the questions we've got for you today, Scott. Thank you very much once again for coming and talking to us. Looking forward to doing more videos in future. And if you've got anything else you want to say, or is that you kind of round off? No,
it's really just about, I've probably said it a few times now, but the confidence is there. We have to give folk confidence to report things. The police will do everything they can, and it's important that you let us know. And I understand the difficulties of it. I've said that a few times just now, so I'm not going to assume that it's dead easy to come and tell us things. It's not. I know it's not. But we'd also like Dave Keane, I probably should have mentioned earlier, to find out what we can do to improve what we're doing. We've got a couple of things coming up now where we're asking not just students, but any member of the public to say, look, police could do this better, particularly when it comes to gender-based violence. That's the main thing I'm speaking about today. And if we feel there's something we could do better, then feel free to let the college know, and they could get in touch with me, because we're always looking to improve what we do, because you'll never be perfect. But we're trying to make sure that the public are best served, for want of a better phrase.
Perfect. And I just had, obviously, Carlin's put in the chat there that obviously we'll add dates to the page about when you'll be visiting the campus, so students can be made aware of that. So that'll be on our social media page.
Yeah.
Okay.
Looking forward to it.
Me too. Thanks very much, Scott. Take care.
Okay then. Cheers, John. Bye.